Came too far to turn back. The return of the lyricist. Get it together.
Yo, what's up? You listen to You Good with Mike Brown, a mental health podcast presented by Loudspeakers Network and myself. Got Chris T on the boards right now. We have Ariel Leaty as our guest today. She's a comedian. She talks about having cancer. She talks about sexuality. We talk some mental health stuff, but not too much. And she tries to bring up R. Kelly, and I don't know why people trying to talk to me about R. Kelly, because I don't want to talk about I don't talk about this nigga, man. Come on, but it's a good episode. And as always, like I said, rate, review, subscribe, and I appreciate everybody who's been reaching out from the episodes that are already posted. Tell your friends, retweet, and all that good stuff. Trying to get the word out. Hopefully, if anybody's listening and they know where I should be able to get some press in the sense of like reaching out to journalists and all that to get the word out, please let me know. Hit me up at Yo Mike Brown on everything. And other than that, just enjoy this conversation with me and Ariel. Peace. So yeah, how are you doing? You good? What's up?
I'm good.
You good?
Feel good,
Feel good? Feel blessed?
I feel blessed and highly favored.
Oh my God.
I do.
Oh my God. The blessed and highly favored.
Highly favored.
Like, I don't even know how I want to approach this, because it's like, I don't want to start like,
So
oh,
you
let's
had
talk.
cancer.
So you had
Let's
cancer.
talk about
Let's talk
it.
about your cancer. What you still doing alive, girl? Like, I'm not going to start that way.
This is my therapy session
Yeah.
for the week.
Oh,
what?
boy. Well, I remember when I first met you, I was at
When did we first meet? Oh my God.
we met in Brooklyn at a bar that's, I think it closed down. It was like at some show in the back room.
Yeah.
Kind of like off the L train, obviously. And I can't remember the name of this bar for the life of me, but they used to have so many shows there, like Side Ponytail was there. Like a lot of shows used to be there.
It wasn't over the 8?
Might have been over the 8.
Okay.
It might have been over, I think it might have been over the 8, because like a lot of comedy shows were over there. Like a lot of alt scene shows were over there.
Okay.
And I remember you doing the show and you were talking about like having survived cancer, having like the issues like dating, and then also talking like, I don't want to say like woke shit, but it's not like woke shit. It's just like kind of like, oh,
Lightly
this
woke.
is lightly woke, slightly.
I've rebranded since.
Yeah. Why is that?
So that was, at that time I felt like I needed to talk about cancer shit. It was like my therapy where
Yeah.
I was like, let me make this funny somehow so I don't cry every day. And now I've rebranded to like Ho with woke tendencies.
Yeah, I've noticed
which
that.
Is
What's
still
that
who
about?
I am. It's still very much who I am.
Oh my God.
But I don't really talk about the cancer stuff because I don't look cancerous anymore. To be fair, to be very honest,
Yeah.
that's why I don't talk about it.
Really?
Yeah, I was like baldy when I was talking about this stuff,
Yeah.
and then once my hair started growing back, people would be like, "So, are you lying about this?" And it just made me feel weird, so I stopped doing it.
Well, it's funny because I think when I met you, you did have like shorter hair.
Yeah, it was just
You
short.
were more, yeah.
It was growing back.
Yeah.
But now, like a whole fro later, people would come up to me and ask me weird questions, and I just didn't like how I was feeling after it, so I just stopped.
What were they asking you?
They'd ask me like, "Oh, so did you actually have cancer? Are you making this up?"
Oh shit.
And then if I, and then when they find out I actually did, be like, "Oh my God, God bless you." And it just, I wasn't really looking for that when I was going on stage and telling jokes. I wasn't looking for a God bless you or like, my uncle had cancer too and he died. Like
Yeah.
a lot of that would happen and I'd be like, okay.
Yo,
all
yeah.
right. Yeah. So it just didn't make me feel good. I mean, I'm sure there's a way I can work the jokes out again and talk about them more in like a present tense and this is how I'm feeling as a person who had cancer recently.
Yeah.
But now, I don't know.
That's
I'm not quite there yet.
It's funny because I talk about a lot. Like, I'm super open now about everything, which I feel like I should stop doing because because it's like anytime I feel like because I talk about depression and anxiety and all these things so openly that it becomes a matter of any time there is something sad, everyone gets like extra worried.
Right.
And it's like, no, I don't want you to look at me as someone who is not stable.
Right.
I'm just trying to show, hey, I'm so stable that even in my sadness, I can be secure enough to share the way I'm feeling about these things. You know, like, it's okay for me to be sad. It's like,
Right.
it's either, I think a lot of times we only see like people are good and people are doing great. We never see
Yeah.
when people are doing bad. So when you see that, it's like, oh man, are you good?
Well, that's not what people use social media for. No one uses it to say
Yeah.
like, I feel sad about this.
Yeah.
So then when people do use it for that, it is high alert. Let's
Yeah.
get worried right now.
Which is great. Which is I mean,
great,
it
but
feels good to
also,
get the
like,
attention, but I don't.
No.
Yeah, it's something. It's like no, I don't want that like that. Like, I don't want to fight. You know.
Yeah. No, I don't really need that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mad DMs like, you good?
Yo, you good? You good? It's like, man.
Or like if I post anything
Yeah.
cancerous, oh shit, I didn't even know, my bad. And I'll get like DMs like that. And I'm like, I don't really need, it's not really why I posted it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very complicated. It's not that complicated, but it's pretty complicated.
No,
you know?
it's
slightly
very
complicated.
It's complicated. Especially when you're doing stand up. It's
Right.
like, it's weird. Like, ever since I launched the podcast, I ended up like getting in all these deep conversations with other comics, because it's like we talk about that, the feeling of like being in the scene, of like trying to get your career going a certain way, or
Right.
like doing those auditions and doing great and not booking it, or like being around certain bookers and not getting, but like all these weird little things that, you know, I thought that I was just dealing with as a comedian, and it turns out like everybody's dealing with this shit
yeah.
as a comedian.
Everybody's doing it. Get on in.
Everybody's
Get
doing
on
it.
board.
Get on board.
Actually, so after talking to you, I mean, you just say a lot of shit,
I
and
do.
you know, sometimes I take it to heart. And so,
Oh
something
boy,
you
what did I
said-
say? What did I say?
I think it was when I saw you at Knitting Factory.
Yeah.
You said like fuck the scene. Like that's not what it's really about. It's about like owning your craft and making yourself better. And I'm like, oh, for whatever reason that clicked, and I'm like, oh, so I don't really have to be a part
Yeah.
of a scene or something like that. I can just kind of do what feels
Yeah.
right for me. But it took just your dumbass saying some
thank
shit
you.
like that. You're welcome. Some shit
say a
like
lot
that
of
to
dumb
really. Oh, I know.
Hello, comedy.
Woo!
I say a lot of dumb shit, man.
It took that for me to be like, you know, he might be right.
I think it's like, well, the thing is like, there's this difference of like, you know, if we're just talking about like specifically New York comedy scene, there was a time when you had certain shows that let comics come to and just be a hang. Like, you know, there was a time when Cabin was a bar show that was like the premiere show every week, and you would have like, you know, big name comedians drop in at any time, and the people who were doing late night sets and all those people there. And then also you'd have the people who were just doing open mics at the bar. And it was just
Right.
like this mingling of like, oh, this is just where the comics hang. You know what I mean? It felt like a real place where when you went in, everyone was a comic. It didn't really matter your level, and you can just like be a person and be a comic at the same time. And that kind of went away. And I feel like,
You know what?
Yeah.
Social media fucked it up.
You think so?
I think so. I think social media fucks everything up. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
It's also really terrible.
Did you
It's
put
bad
like
for
your
mental health? Yeah.
Did you put like your cancer stuff on social media when you were like when you like diagnosed and all that?
When I got diagnosed, I did not.
Yeah.
And then I had a friend tell me like, you should, because you can get a GoFundMe going and like get some shit going. So this is
Really?
when I only had Facebook, really.
So when was this? What year was this?
2014,
Okay.
July 2014.
Okay.
So then I put up a GoFundMe, and I was like, fucking fine, I'll put up a GoFundMe begrudgingly. And then it worked. I made the money off of it that I needed to pay medical bills. I mean, never enough, really, but I mean, enough for that time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when I guess I used social media for good. And then also in my head at the time, for me, that was like, oh, everybody saw it. So now everybody knows I had cancer.
Oh, okay.
When in actuality, you know, Facebook is just a small bubble of people that have like seen that. So I mean,
Yeah.
there are people still to this day that have no idea.
Really?
That, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Whenever, like when I post about it, people are surprised and they'll hit
Okay.
me up. But I don't really post about it so much anymore. I just don't really talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's such an interesting thing, because it's like, I feel like when we do stand-up comedy, you want to differentiate yourself from everybody else. And especially when you're first starting out, you're kind of like, okay, what's my quote-unquote thing, right?
Oh yeah, I don't want to be cancer, bitch.
Yeah, you don't want to, like, I don't want to be sad, dude.
And that's why I'm like, ugh. I think that's the main thing that I'm like, this feels gross to me. It feels like I'm
Yeah.
using it.
Same.
So I don't love it. And I think that's probably the main reason why I was like, I'm going to just kind of not do this.
But the other, it's such a weird, like,
Because a lot of also my stand-up it's me, but it's amplified. Like, it's a character. It's not exactly me. It's sort of me. So that shit was real. That's not a character part of me. So it's tricky.
Were you able to, like, then how do you separate, I guess, the character played up version of you and the art away from, like, the real feelings of surviving cancer or being that cancer person or whatever? Does that make sense?
How do I?
I don't know. I'm asking you how you do it.
How do I separate real feelings from the comedy when I was doing comedy about it?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's like when I'm on stage, I know it's a performance. You know, I'm telling jokes that I wrote that came from a real place, but it comes to a point where I know I'm at my height of the joke telling when I know I'm just telling a joke. Like, I've taken all the emotion out of it. Like, if I'm talking about someone passing away or things with my dad or whatever, it's like I've just put all the funny in there and I've took all the emotion out of it. And if they laugh, it's great, they get the joke. If they don't laugh, I'm not like, oh, they don't like me. It's just like, they might not have just got that joke.
Right.
You know, like, how did you do that? Or are you doing it?
I mean, when I was telling those jokes, they were jokes.
Yeah.
And they still are. Yeah. I just didn't like then the feeling I would get after when people would say shit to me. I didn't like that.
Why not? Like, what was that?
It would just make me feel like, am I doing the right thing? Should I not be talking about this? Should I just, like, keep this to myself? Maybe it isn't funny. So it was just too many questions for it to be, like, funny for me. It wasn't fun. And that isn't the point of comedy, to be fun.
Yeah, to be funny. I don't know. It depends on who you ask.
I mean, I guess.
Now it might just be to say random shit, you know. I remember...
True.
Actually, my producer, Chris, over here, I might have him on the mic.
Right.
I think he went to, I think, the show at The Pit, I think Extra Sauce, and he was like, oh, you got to get Ariel on. And I was like, you sure? He was like, yeah, you got to get her on. I was like, all right, yeah. I was like, I hit her up. He was like, hey, no, what he said was this. He said, hey, have you ever heard of this comic? I was like,
yeah, we boys.
Yeah, it's a homie. Yeah, we do some comedy. He's like, yeah, you know, he'd be like, that'd be a great get if you, I was like, oh, you know,
I'm a get.
You're a get. And I was like, I never, she's a get. And I was like, oh, look at little Ariel, you know, but it's not even like little Ariel, but it's like when you, like for me, it's like when you've done comedy or been doing comedy for a while and you see someone else outside of comedy give that kind of like respect to somebody, like, oh, it feels like so good.
Oh yeah, that is nice. That's a nice thing. I didn't know that he did that. So thank you.
Your name is buzzing out here. You know.
She got like buzz.
Yeah, she got a little buzz. Got a little buzz. When you were, this is such a random thing, but not random, but when you were diagnosed, did you get like, how'd you feel when that happened? Like, tell me about that. Like,
oh boy.
Yeah, let's get deep into it.
So that's a story.
Yeah, let me hear it. You got time.
Which I told on another podcast, but I don't think it'll ever be released. Okay. So I will tell you the story.
Oh, this one's coming out.
This is the story that's coming out. Yeah. Okay, so I was feeling fine. I went to school for aesthetics, so I can get my aesthetics license, which is like skincare and waxing and all that stuff. Because that was like my plan B for the arts. So I figured I could do facials and stuff and get paid for that and then do comedy at night.
Okay, so you're like, if this thing doesn't work out.
Right.
Okay,
right.
Let's fall back.
So I went to school for that, and in order to get your license, you have to get a physical. Okay. So I had gotten a job in New York, and I was like, bet, all I got to do is get my physical, I'm good. So I went and got a physical, and then they kept calling me, and I ignored them for like a week. So and I didn't have a doctor, so I was 24, so you don't really have like a real primary doctor. You're just kind of out here hoping that no shit will go down. Yeah. So I went to like an Medi center, quickly got my physical, was done with it. Calling. I ignored them forever. So then they called my mother, who was my emergency contact. And I happened to be home that day. And this was at a time that I was working like 7 days a week, just picking up odd jobs, doing whatever. So I was tired, but I didn't think anything of it. I just figured, I'm working 7 days a week. This is what it is.
Yeah.
So they asked to talk to me. And they're like, hey, you need to go to a hematologist, which is a blood doctor, right away. And I was like, okay, I'll set up an appointment with them, no problem. They're like, no, it's 3:00 now. We set up an appointment for you for 3:30. So can you get there by 3:30? And I'm like, okay. Again, still thinking nothing of it because I'm gonna live forever. I'm 24.
Yeah.
I'm just a little tired. So what? Yeah. People been tired before.
People been tired. You drink your water.
I'm
you know
good.
What I'm saying? Your skin look good. You know, go ahead.
I was great.
Yeah.
So I was like, fine, I guess I'll go. So I went alone to this hematologist. And I get there and he is yelling. I'm in the waiting room and he's yelling in the background. I hear him talking about this person who doesn't have insurance, me. And he doesn't care if they don't have insurance. He has to see them right away, yelling to the nurses and stuff. And I'm like, who is this poor peasant that he's talking about? Couldn't be me. So then the nurse walks me to the back and it's just me and him, leaves the door open, wilding out. And I sit down, he goes, you have leukemia. How do you not feel sick?
Wow.
And I'm like, huh? What?
Wow.
So he literally throws pamphlets and books at me about leukemia.
Who
and
is this aggressive ass doctor?
I don't remember his
story. This story is ratchet as shit. You go into the office and he's talking about this broke bitch. I need to see it right
honestly,
now.
yes.
What the fuck is going on in this story? I'm sorry.
This is a real story.
Okay. So he's throwing
this
pamphlets
really
at
happened.
you. He's
Throwing pamphlets and a book. This is like a heavy textbook from high school, hardcover at me about leukemia. And in my head, I'm like, little kids get leukemia. What the fuck is this? They must be wrong. Right, I'm grown. They must be wrong. There must be a mistake. So I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, okay. So then I have to ask about your family history because you're really sick. And I was like,
wow.
Okay. He's like, you're going to need a bone marrow transplant. So in order to get a bone marrow transplant, you're supposed to get it from a sibling, but they could kind of get it from a parent, but really not. It's supposed to be a sibling. Yeah. So they're like, tell me about your parents. And I was like, well, my dad is in perfect bill of health. He's great. My mom has high blood pressure, but that's it, like nothing crazy. Yeah. And he's like, okay, well, do you have siblings? I was like, yeah, I have a brother. No other siblings? I was like, nah, but even if you wanted to, you couldn't use my brother. And he's like, what's up with your brother? Well, my brother has HIV.
Okay.
And he goes, oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
So your brother does drugs. And he does, I know you can't see this, family that are listening, but he is doing like a needle kind of injection hand motion to his arm. Yeah. And then I said, no. And he goes, oh, so your brother is a homosexual. And then he does another hand movement where where he takes the one hand and then he takes the other and it looks like inserting a... There's no video component, but I want you to imagine one hand is a dick and the other hand is a hole.
2 fingers to the hole.
2 fingers to the hole, yes, exactly. And then I'm like, you got it, bingo. Because I'm still able to find the humor in this moment at the time. Because I was just like, this is comedy.
That's nuts.
This is bad.
Yeah.
So then he goes, okay, well...
I love that. He's like, oh, so he does a little bit of this.
A little bit of that, you know?
He just mimes like injecting himself and sharing needles.
All that. So he goes, okay, well, you can continue to see me as your primary doctor, or you can see Dr. Stuart Goldberg, the best leukemia doctor in all of New Jersey. And I said, sir, give me Goldberg's number because I never want to see you again. And he gave me...
Did he do like hand signs to show like a Jewish person?
No, he didn't, but he might as fucking have well. He is a Jewish man. So he wrote his name and phone number on a Post-it and gave it to me as a little goodbye. And then I just stood in the parking lot staring at this Post-it thinking like, what's actually happening here? Yeah. So the next part of that story, I mean, this is a journey. Do you want to go on a journey?
Let's go on a journey. This is what podcasts are for.
Okay. So I called my boyfriend at the time and so here's the problem. Is that I'm one of those people that plays too much. So my boyfriend thought I was kidding. Yeah. Not the funniest joke I've ever come up with. Not funny. So he didn't really think I was telling the truth. I go back home and this is...
Okay, go ahead.
It's all bad. So then I go back home and this is around the time I had to move back in with my parents. So luckily I was still living with them, thankfully, during this time. And my aunt had just passed away 3 days before. So a bunch of my family was at the house. Okay. So my mom comes up to me and she's like, how did that doctor's appointment go? What happened? And I was like, I think everyone should come upstairs and we should talk about this. And she's like, well, no, why? What? And I was like, I just think everyone should come upstairs and we should talk about it. And she's like, what is the issue?
What do you hide?
So she pressed me, yeah. And then I was like, look, they told me I have leukemia. And she was like, no, you don't. So no one believed me for like 5 days. I go to the real doctor.
Real quick, I just want to put this out there to the listeners. Believe women.
Believe women.
Believe women. All right? I believe. Believe women.
Believe women.
Even if they tell you a lie, believe
women always.
I need my career to go the way it needs to go. Believe. What hashtag we doing tomorrow?
I don't know. Hashtag believe women.
Believe women.
We really do be having cancer. That's a long hashtag, but...
That's right. Hashtag we really do be having cancer. That's the whole tweet. Hashtag we really do be having
really
cancer.
do be out here cancerous. So... So no one believed me for like 5 days. I set an appointment up with Goldberg, the homie. Okay. And my best friend went with me to the doctor to meet him because no one fucking believed me. My parents
how'd you tell the boyfriend?
I just told him over the phone.
You called him on the phone and was like...
Yo, I got cancer.
And he was like, man, that's hilarious.
He was like, no, you don't. Everybody was just like, no, you don't. Stop. Wow. No. Right. This is
hard for black women. I didn't know.
It is hard for black women. No one believes.
Yeah.
So... I went with my best friend who is now a nurse practitioner. So she was like, in my head, the best person that can go with me to the doctor. Yeah. Also, my parents didn't believe me. Mm-hmm. So I go to Goldberg's and he's like, oh, yeah, you. But he did it right, closed the door. We discussed it. He's like, you're going to lose probably like 2-3 years of your life. Then you could start back up again. But really, this is just what it is. And he's like, chemo's going to really knock you out. Wow. What we're going to do is give you the children's chemo. Because you're 24. 25 would have been, I would have had to get the adult regimen.
Try it as an adult.
Yeah. Try it as an adult.
Yeah, for the homies listening out there, you know what I mean?
You get tried as an adult when you're 25.
Yeah, when you're 25 it's different, man. It's a longer sentence, you know what I mean? Yeah. When you're under 25, that's a little chemo.
It's a little light, something light.
Yeah, they call it Kiki. Kiki, are you healthy? I get it. So go ahead. So you get the little Tykes chemo.
I get the little.
I got you.
I get the pediatric. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he's like, that we've had a better success rate for that. Okay. Chemo for kids, truly. That's not, you're kidding, but like that's what it said.
I'm done.
That's what it said on the paper. So like you're joking, but this is a real thing.
There's brilliance in there sometimes. You're now listening to You Good with Mike Brown, Mental Health Podcast. All right, but go ahead. So you have the little chemo kit.
So I had a little chemo thing. They're like, yeah, look, we have a better success rate. You might not have to get a bone marrow transplant if this chemo works out. Mm-hmm. Boom. But here's the thing. You're going to have to live in the hospital for 2 months, like in a bubble, basically. Okay. So I'm like, oh, okay. So then I tell my parents they want to take me in right away, starting like 3 days from now. We just have to pack, and I'm going to live there. So then they believed me.
Wow.
Yeah. Sidebar.
Yeah.
Another like women's rights thing.
Yeah.
During that time, the doctor was like, well, you're going to have to also go freeze your eggs. And I was like, well... What does that entail? Like, what's the deal? So if I were to freeze my eggs, it would have pushed everything further out. So I think I would have had to wait a month or two before I could even start chemo because I have to do all the egg freezing thing. And then you're in pain and all this stuff. Yeah. So I immediately told him, like, nah, I'm not going to do that. And then he was like, what? I was like, well, I don't feel the need to freeze my eggs. I already don't want to have kids. Yeah. And I knew that back then. Yeah. So I was like, no, I don't think I want to push chemo out for like a theoretical baby that I don't even really want. Yeah. So he was mad at me. Even though I'm putting his whole government. Yeah, I'm putting his whole government out there. But he was mad that I wanted to make that decision. So he told me, talk to your parents about it, think about it, but I'm going to still set up an appointment with you for the egg donor people. So you can go.
Don't want to have kids. Believe women.
I know. Believe women. Believe that.
Jesus.
So then I had to go to the egg place and talk about it, and it would have been thousands of dollars in addition to like pushing it out. And like they kept telling me I was super sick. So what? I'm going to push out my regimen and potentially die for some egg? Nah, B. So I got there and I was like, look, I'm not actually interested in this. My doctor just told me that I had to do this. And then she's like, all right. And then I left, and then I started chemo that, like, it was a Thursday. I started on Monday or something.
Did that do anything to, like, I guess, like, your feeling, like, happiness and all that? Like, where were you at that point? Like, how were you feeling? Do you remember?
It was all a blur. I wasn't even really scared or anything. Yeah. It was just happening. It was all happening. It's like you don't have any chance to think when you're going on the roller coaster. You're just there. Okay. So then I started to feel sick, and I'm like, am I actually feeling sick, or is this all now like psychosomatic? Yeah. So my lymph nodes were getting really inflamed. My lymph nodes on my neck and my like groin area were getting inflamed. So I was like, oh, I am sick, and I was also getting like crazy migraines, like terrible, awful migraines.
Yeah.
And then I started my treatment. So then I was just living in the hospital. I don't remember a lot of that. I was drugged up.
Yeah.
Very much drugged up.
You weren't doing comedy then.
No.
You were
Once I got out.
planning. You were planning because you were working on that degree.
So here's the thing.
As a backup,
I started doing comedy that year. So January 2014, that was my New Year's resolution. I'm going to do comedy.
Yeah.
So then in July is when I got diagnosed. So I was doing comedy up until then, and I felt like, oh man, I have this great momentum. So probably like May, June, I felt like, okay, I'm doing shows and things are good.
Yeah.
You know, because when you first start out, you think you're fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So
of course.
I was crushing it.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And then that happened, and it put like a monkey wrench in everything.
Wow.
And then that was that. And then what else do you want to know? I have stories forever.
I mean, shit, give me
I have
another
so
one.
many.
I have this idea that anyone who does stand-up comedy is someone who
is supremely fucked up.
Yeah, there's like a fucked up thing with comics, but because they choose to do comedy, that's the stability. You know what I mean? Where it's like they have those ideas of like, oh, this thing is weird, and you can't say that to like a friend, like in a joking way. And you're like, well, if I have a stage and I can say these things, people will get it because they know I'm saying this as a joke and it's nuts and it's just meant to be funny. So for you, why was comedy a thing you pursued? Like, when did you say
before I was fucked up?
Yeah.
Because I was always kind of fucked up. I mean, I'd always say crazy things to my friends, and they'd be like, you should probably either not tell me this or like say it on stage or like write it out or do something.
Well, where did that like, I guess like, do you know where it like kind of like came from, or like the things that kind of pushed you into that direction?
Man.
Especially in the sense of like, under the guise of like mental health, like was it like depression that made you go there, like anxiety, or were you just like always popping?
I never had depression or anxiety.
Yeah.
I was not always this cute.
You can't say you never had depression.
I was not always this cute or whatever. So when I was younger, I had like buck teeth and I, had braces. I was like a big nerd nobody wanted to fuck with. And so this is the fucking age story as old as time, really, that like I had to make fun of myself before anyone else could. So I knew how to navigate through that. And so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna be the funny kid. I'm just gonna be funny. And people are gonna laugh. So that's what I did.
Yeah, like if I get them to laugh at me,
right,
and I'm doing it,
and I'm laughing with them,
then I'm laughing with them.
So I have the power.
I take the power back.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where that started.
Were you bullied
really.
and stuff with a buck teeth?
I mean, like, light. It was a little light. Something like it was something like little bucky, here and there. You know what I mean? Buck teeth. Yeah. My mom is white Puerto Rican and my dad is black Cuban. Okay. So no one knew what to do with my hair. So I had like this little fro that no one knew how to like pick out or straighten. It just kind of was. So I get made fun of for my hair a lot, my teeth.
Yeah.
In the 5th grade, I moved to Puerto Rico, and nobody liked me at all. So I couldn't even joke with them in Spanish because I was a black Puerto Rican in this white school.
Yeah.
And so nobody liked that at all. So I didn't have any friends, really. So it was like weird dynamics like that made me be like, how can I break through to these people?
It's like, because I know like the growing up you, it's hard to imagine that version of you, like the
really?
I mean, shut up. I mean, but you know what I mean. Like it's like didn't you like the modeling contract stuff?
Didn't come out till later.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like it's just really incredible because it's like you really don't get a chance to see like people's journeys until like they're at like the end of their journey where they're like, oh, I'm not doing this anymore. I've done all I can do, and then they're like, well, let's start at the beginning.
Right. I mean, my parents wouldn't and after I've watched a lot of documentaries lately, and I get why my parents didn't let me, but I wasn't allowed to do modeling and stuff, and I was very skinny growing up, so I was like size 0 until I was 16, which would have been prime time for me to get into modeling.
Wow.
And my uncle is a designer. I don't know if anybody has heard of him, but his name's Willie Esco, so he's done like... If you know
Willie Esco?
Do you know who that is?
Is your uncle?
Yeah. So he was always like, yo, whenever you're ready, you could... Do you know who that is?
Hold on, time out. Willie Esco?
Do you know who that is? Seriously?
Is your uncle?
Yeah. Well, he's technically my mother's cousin, but he's one of those people that I call my uncle. Like, yeah.
Wait, you're related to the guy that did. I thought that was Nas's brand forever. Is it not Nas's brand?
No, it's William Esco.
But he called it Willie Esco, though, right? Mm-hmm. Am I bugging?
And he worked with Machiavelli brand for a while.
Right?
Coogee, he's working with, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was always like,
he's still making stuff?
He's still doing stuff. I think he's working on jeans and stuff now.
Okay. Under Willie Esco or under like?
Under Willie Esco, but he was working with Coogee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like rebranding Coogee.
Okay,
making
cool.
it cool again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was like, I wanted to be a model. And they were like, nah, chill. You can't do that.
Why? Because of like the sex stuff?
Because of sex stuff. And I get it,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then once I was older, I wanted to be an actress. And my uncle is an actor.
Mm-hmm. Who's?
No, he's nobody you would know.
Michael B. Jordan?
Michael B. Jordan is my uncle.
Michael B. Jordan?
My actual uncle is...
You mean not Michael Jordan, the basketball player, but
Michael B.
bury me in the seas underneath the slave ships where the rest of my ancestors have died because they knew living was not worth. Michael B. Jordan?
Michael B. Jordan, yes.
Creed?
That was a good one. No, he's no one you've ever heard of, but he told me, and this is now already after I had like gained weight and looked like a person. I wasn't a size 0 anymore. He was like, well, you're either going to have to lose a lot of weight to look like you looked before or gain a lot of weight and be plus size because no one's going to want you the way you look now. So that stopped me. Right. So that stopped me from doing anything for a long time too. So finally, this is more like the past 5 years after like almost dying and shit. I'm like, oh, maybe I should just do it. What would happen?
Yeah.
So that's why I always relied on like, oh, at least I could be funny. If I wasn't marketable as like a super skinny actress or like a plus size model, like I wasn't anything. I'm not really anything right now. So I was like, well, funny knows no bounds. So I could just do that. Yeah.
I think funny goes on forever.
Funny does go on forever.
And it's kind of scary because I think that I think a lot of people now are kind of going into comedy the same way that they would go into music or other things where it's like a side hustle for them. And it's kind of discouraging because it saturates the market. And especially if you're probably under, and this sounds whatever, if you're like under 25, or let's say like 23, 25, whatever, and you're going into comedy and you're doing like the videos on Instagram, like those videos are dope, they're funny, but it's like, but once you go into the stand-up arena and you're not doing stand-up, but if you have the social media clout or whatever, and you kind of bypass these people who've been working on the craft of stand-up.
Yeah, but that crashes and burns, doesn't it? So it either crashes and burns, or B, they found their avenue. So like, no disrespect to the Instagram kids. If you're able to find your avenue and you know that, and you know like, oh, I can't do stand-up. Because some of them will say like, I can't fucking do stand-up. That's not for me.
I respect that,
Cool.
Because I can't do the Instagram video. I can't do the videos.
Right. Boom, do those videos.
Yeah.
Make it happen. So I'm not mad at that.
Okay.
Because they're still putting in work in a different way, though.
Yeah. So were you, so now, like, I guess with you, like, comedy-wise and, like, after going through all of the, like, cancer treatments and getting back into stand-up, where was your mind at that point? Were you feeling like, all right, let me just give this thing a shot? Everyone's telling me no, that I can't do it. Let me just get over it? Or, like, was it, like, a rough thing?
Do it. No, it was my thing in my head. I was like, this is the thing that I will do, and it will make me feel good, so I will do comedy. And so
it was that simple?
It was that simple. Things, funny enough, just become very simple when you're sick like that. And you're just kind of like stuck in bed. Yeah. And like walking outside is exciting.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, oh, I'm just going to do comedy. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
The end. Like I didn't really think about it.
I think it's a thing of like when you are at your worst or at your lowest point, you start to reevaluate everything around you.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, this thing doesn't bother me.
Right.
Like, why am I being scared to go on stage? Or why am I not doing this thing? I'm just wasting minutes of the day. Let me focus on it and do it.
I'm going to be scared of bombing?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm going to be scared of?
I still a little bit get scared of bombing. Sometimes, not as much anymore because I haven't in a while, but that's why I'm so scared of it, because I know it's coming. I know it's coming.
Oh, a good bomb streak is in your future, baby.
Man.
Woo!
Oh, man, when you don't bomb for a while and you're just out here,
you know what's coming.
Don't
it's
think
looming.
You want to touch. Well, now I know. Now I know.
It's looming.
It's looming. I don't know when it's going to come, and I try to, like, I'm in my head now, like when I perform, I'm like, all right, this is not going to be the show. This ain't going to be it. And if I see that it's going to be the show, I have to say, all right.
Strap in,
get ready. But if you know that it's coming, I feel like if you know the bomb is coming, it's not really a bomb. But if you like go in it,
you don't have to get ready.
Bars.
So it sounds like you're ready.
I'm ready.
Seems like
ready.
you're ready. Oh, I didn't want to do that.
Did you do a don't R. Kelly reference in the thing? Oh, God. Oh, jeez. All right. Well,
And
Ariel, where can they find you?
Is yell about R. Kelly.
It's 30 minutes in. You dropping R. Kelly references.
I didn't even mean to do it. See how he's permeated the culture? I didn't mean to do it. And I hate R. Kelly. All I do is yell about R. Kelly.
Oh, my God. Oh, here's another thing I want to talk to you about.
Let's talk about R. Kelly.
No, I don't want to talk about R. Kelly. No. This is an R. Kelly free podcast zone. I mean, sometimes I bring it up. No, keep it in. We pull no punches here. I mean, we do punches, but not do my intro and stuff. Anyway,
working in post.
So let's talk about relationships and sexuality.
Okay.
Tell me about your journey.
Damn. So I think if anyone wants to know everything about me, they should listen to this episode.
You can share it or you can just not share it. And
what do you want to know? What
well,
exactly? Let's be specific.
Well, I remember one of the things that stood out to me when I first saw you. You talked about being bi, right?
You talked about being a dumb hoe.
Yeah.
Wow.
No. You evolved into the dumb hoe thing.
Okay.
As you said,
devolved.
The woke devolved. Okay, whatever you want to say. I'm not going to mansplain evolution or devolution, if you will. But when you were on stage, you were talking about being bi, and it was something that I remember at that time. I mean, there were so many things going on because it's like, oh, who's this comedian? There's this black female comedian who I've never seen before who's really funny, right? And then you hear, oh, she's bi, like, oh, I didn't see that coming, but it was a very, like, you know, heteronormative, like, mindset I had. And then I'm like, oh, that's really dope. And then you went to cancer stuff. I was like, oh, I don't even know what's going on anymore.
Right.
Just, like, strap in. Like, I don't know what's going on. Yeah.
Too many things. That's why I had to condense.
Yeah, you had to condense. Like, let me just go slightly woke.
Slightly woke.
Yeah.
Get white people mad.
Yeah.
Get them back on board with the bi stuff because they do love non-heteronormative stuff. The whites love that. And
They do.
They strap back in for everything else.
So I want to know about that journey. Like, when did you know? How was that? Did you tell your parents? All that good shit?
I just told my parents.
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean you just told them?
I just told them maybe last July or something.
Really?
Yeah. I was really scared to tell my parents. And so, why was I scared to tell my parents? Who fucking knows? But I was really scared to tell them. And so I just told, I think my dad must know. I didn't tell him specifically, but I told my mom because I kept saying, like, I went on a date with this person and, like, saying them and they, and she's like, what was their name? And I was like, Stephanie. And she's like, it was a girl. And I was like, well, yeah. And she's like, see? Because, all right, when I was telling her about the date, the girl was kind of crazy. And the girl wanted me to meet all her friends on the first date. It was a lot. And then, like, told me about her family and had her family... doesn't know that she's out yet and she's never going to come out and she's going to marry a guy. It was like a whole thing. So I told my mom this and she's like, so it was a girl, man, you should have known these bitches be crazy. And what else did she say that was like problematic? She's like, yeah, lesbians are crazy. Well, I mean, that's just a thing. And I'm like, all right, so this was easy to come out to you. A, but B, problematic views.
Yeah.
But you know what? One step at a time from my mom.
Okay.
So bitches be crazy is the moral of the story.
When did you know?
I think I've always known. I have. When I was a kid, I remember having a crush on this kid, Craig, and this is like, you know, kindergarten. I didn't know what it was or anything.
And Craig was a girl.
Craig was a boy.
Oh,
and then I also had a crush on this girl, Heather, but I didn't know what it all meant. I was just like, I just want to be around them all the time. What does it all mean? And so that started in kindergarten. And I didn't know you could be gay and act on these feelings until I was like 10 or 11. I was like, oh, wait a minute now. People could be gay and it could be cool and people like accept you and love you anyway? What?
Yeah.
So I didn't start having little girlfriends and shit till middle school, but I did have
like legit girlfriends.
Little girlfriends, yeah.
And you've been talking about this on stage for years. and never brought it up to your parents. That's such a...
Well, because when do my parents ever come
to the show?
Yeah.
But it's also like it's out there in the world.
It is out there in the world.
But
and I was
not
like, if they find out, they find out, you know?
Why you DMX all of a sudden? Like, why are you ready to fight over...
They find out, they find out. You know what I mean? But...
They found out, they found out.
That's exactly how I felt about it. But then also...
Mom, I've been dating Keisha, Taronda, Felicia, Taronda.
I would rather be P.D. Pablo than DMX.
Really?
Where is P.D.?
Oh, man.
That's the real question.
Somewhere putting a shirt on.
DMX is out of jail. He's actually doing well.
He's doing great.
I'm happy for him.
Yeah. So wait. So you told your mom and your dad?
I actually told my mom, but I didn't actually tell my dad. But I'm sure
so
she told.
He still doesn't know.
No, I'm sure she told.
Why?
I haven't actively told him, but he knows. It's like we know.
So you both are just not going to talk about it?
No.
Whatever. Oh, hold on. You know what? Can you get this for me? This is Mama Do. Just pick it up. Mama Do's another guest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to him about, he went viral. Did you know Mamadou Ndiaye?
Mamadou Diablo?
No. Diablo? You fucking jerk. No, Mamadou is mad funny. He did it's one thing like we talk about like with comedy wise, like he wrote like a Broad City spec script.
Okay.
That was like, and it went viral and like his whole life kind of like changed after that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Like all this comedy shit is just fucking weird, but like we're all artists at the end of the day, just trying to make it and make sense of this whole thing. You know,
It doesn't make sense. Is the thing?
No, it doesn't make any fucking sense. But you didn't tell your fucking dad. You didn't tell your dad.
You really want me to tell my dad? What am I gonna say?
I don't
Ayo,
know. Yo, AOB.
I felt so. My thing
I call her Stephanie. You call her Stephanie. No.
My whole thing with my dad was like, or both my parents really, I was like, I'm not going to tell them until like I get into a relationship with somebody.
Oh, Steve, relationships is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I never did. So I was like, well, I mean, I sort of did, but I didn't. And it was just the whole thing.
Is it because of like, is it just like because it's just your mom and your dad, or is it like a cultural kind of thing where it's like, you know, black, Puerto Rican, stuff like
So like everybody in my family is gay. So I know that
really?
I really do know that they would not care.
Yeah.
But I think, so really what I think it is because I'm bi. Because bi people, there's an erasure.
You can't make a decision.
Right. I just, you know, I'm too friendly. I can't make a decision. All this stuff. So it's there's an erasure involved. Yeah. And so they'd be like, oh, so what, you a lesbian?
Yeah.
So it's very, you know, it's complicated.
I'm just giving Mama Do. Is that
Hi, Mama Do.
You know Ariel? Mama Do, there you go.
Yeah. I feel like we
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Me and Mama Do are old friends. I know Mama
Get
Do.
ready for that. You'll hear him on another episode.
Oh, I'm so excited.
This is like a Netflix or like, you know, at the end of the HBO, like you watch an episode of something and then they show coming up and then
coming up.
A little bit of that,
Mama Do Diablo.
Yeah, exactly. Next week. So I mean, I guess we could. Yeah, we'll go to another one. Is there anything else you want to like? This is what I want to talk to you about the show. What's this thing I saw on Instagram? What's that about?
That's gonna be something. It's okay.
What is that about?
So, I don't want to.
Talk about. Don't spoil it. Like I know you don't want to spoil it because
it's not that I don't want to spoil it. It's that I don't want to talk about it in the wrong way because it's technically. Someone else's show that they made me the star of. But then I started writing a lot for it.
And then it started.
It became, so for me.
You have ownership of it, but it's not.
In a weird
thing.
way, right. Okay. For me, it was more about the comedy and making the show funny.
Okay.
For the other person, it was more about trying to squish in like mental health things.
Oh, this is great.
Yes. Yes.
Or not. I don't
know. No, it's great. It's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's great.
It's great.
Okay.
It's fun. It was a fun show to
What's the name of it?
It's called Morale.
Morale. Okay.
Mm-hmm. My name is Al in the show. I'm basically just a bitch. Like,
okay.
And I hate everybody and everything.
Okay.
And I guess I learned a lesson at the end, but
yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
We'll see. You know, I don't even really know. So.
Okay. When does it come out and all that
When
stuff?
it finishes being edited.
Oh, okay. So it's one of those things where they just have to follow you.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And
just
it can
follow
be,
me. I got things going on. I'm out here in the streets. Yeah. I'm doing everything.
Well, let the people know so we can wrap up where they can follow you.
Oh my goodness. You can follow me on Ariel_comedy on Instagram and Twitter, or arielcomedy.com. Has everything else, really. Those are the main things. I don't really use Facebook anymore because it's bad for you. I'm trying to get off social. It's bad for you.
Yeah.
But it's hard because you kind of have to be on social when you do what we do.
You have to. It's
awful.
It's kind of like a necessary evil, but it's also, for me now, it's like I use my Instagram more as like my personal thing where like, so I'll put up like family stuff or like just a few like moments that I just would want to share with everyone, like, hey, family and friends and fans, whatever, hey, here's me living life as a person, where Twitter is kind of like, hey, I'm a comic and I just feel like sharing something personally or joke-wise, and Facebook is kind of like, I don't even know what that is anymore. Like, I turned off all the news feed.
I got rid of Facebook on my phone, so then I'd have to go on it on my laptop.
Yeah.
But then, like, I don't really even want to, so it's just there.
Yeah. There's this thing, if you use Chrome, there's this thing called Newsfeed Eradicator.
Oh.
That can, it's like a plugin for Chrome, and it takes away all of your newsfeed. So when you log on, you just see, like, there's the box that tells you, well, the box where you can enter in your status or whatever, but you don't see anybody else's newsfeed. It's like, I just go in there, if I got to share something, and if I want to see what's going on in the quote-unquote Facebook world, I do have my phone. Still have the phone app, but I barely use it. You know what I mean? So it kind of like...
It's kind of nice.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's cool. Check it out.
Yeah, I want to get rid of just the feed on my Instagram, because that is like a FOMO machine, isn't it? You just be feeling like, I'm missing out on everything. I'm not doing enough. Look at them doing all this stuff. And then what?
And then what? It's nothing. But,
it's nothing.
But if you're listening, hey, follow her on everything.
Follow me on everything. I'm gonna try to follow you back and shit, but I won't really be following you.
Yeah. You guys can follow me at Yo Mike Brown on everything. I'll tell you right now, I'm not following you back. But it'd be good if you shared, because I just know it's a lot of anxiety for me. I feel like if you're in a post, like I'll follow you if you're like an artist, another artist, or like meaning like a cartoonist, because I love seeing like pictures in my feed. But I'm not really good with all that social media shit too much, and I'm kind of like over it anyway. But at Yo Mike Brown for a good time. Please remember to rate, subscribe, and do all that stuff. Ariel, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I love you so much. And,
love you.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
All right, cool. We did it.
Bye.
Bye.